in our life stories, wouldn't it be nice if the whole book was about shalom, was about peace and joy and those times where we actually get to just focus on this awesome presence and this wonderful experience? But the reality is that in our life stories, there's a lot of chapters. Unfortunately, a lot is the right word. A lot of chapters about shalom that's really been shattered or destroyed, about tragedy and hurt and pain. Reality is each one of us will experience in our lives possibly physical pain, pain that we'll never get rid of physically. And then absolutely we'll experience emotional pain, grief from things that we've lost, people that we've lost, or possibly even betrayal that's happened in our lives. And so we experience this hurt and we experience this pain, and often what we try to do is run away from that pain. The truth is we need to learn how to receive that pain, and that's not easy. I remember early on whenever we were having children, my wife went to a class. I joined her, but I give her credit because I'm not the one that had to endure the pain. But we went to a class where we learned how to work through the pain of having a child and going through labor. And it wasn't easy. The product is great. It's wonderful and joyful, but the reality is they teach you how to receive the pain and work through the pain, and that's the reality of it. We need to learn how to deal with the tragedies that's in our lives and the pain in our lives in a way that we, instead of running from it, we learn to welcome it. Not that we're asking for it or seeking it, but we learn to welcome it, because the reality is the full anguish of that pain is something that we learn from. Unfortunately, a lot of times we look for the alternate answer. We look for the escape, something that will numb us, but that's only temporary. It's only a short period of time of relief, because it will always come back. And in that numbness, we never learn what the pain is trying to teach us. And here's the thing about that pain. Often God is in it. God is in that pain. You see, God redeems us through the harm, not from the harm, but through the harm. He redeems us in the pain, not from the pain, but through that pain. It's in the middle of these difficult times, these trials, in the midst of the storms of the story of our life, that we find the fingerprints of God, not on the outside, but right in the middle of it, holding us together, pushing us together. And the reality is we get to make a choice in the middle of that storm, in the middle of that pain, where God's hand's there, but we don't see it. We can either assume that God doesn't care, or maybe that God doesn't know what we're actually going through, or we try to soothe ourselves by rationalizing and diminishing the pain instead of embracing it. That's not easy. That's a hard part. It's a hard chapter to write, a hard chapter to live, a hard chapter to talk about, but it's vital. And because of that, because it's important, we should evaluate that. And you know, the thing about each of us having a chapter in our lives that involves pain and involves hurt and involves tragedy is that when we write our stories, when we go through our account, we understand how to live it, but we struggle enduring and helping and being a part of somebody else's chapter of hurt and pain. Let me ask you a question. How do you listen to other people's stories of tragedy and pain? Do you desire to fix it? Do you try to fix it? Do you say something to try to help, maybe to help that person to trust God and move on to the next thing? Like, it'll be okay, you don't worry about it, God's got it under control. I mean, that's real, but is that the way we respond? Or are you looking for evidence, possibly, that maybe it's not as bad as what they say? Let me help you with just a little bit. Listening to stories of tragedy is painful. Listening to other people's stories can be painful, especially if you care about them and you love them. But wanting to fix a situation or find that silver lining along the way may seem helpful, but it's really low-lying fruit. Really what we're doing is we're just trying to pick the easy answer and throw it out there. It's very low cost to us. Instead, what we have to understand is that God mines the gold from our stories. When He does, when God works in the pain, He finds what's valuable. It's often buried very deep in us, and it requires a lot of work, a lot of labor, a lot of patience, and a lot of suffering. And many times the best gift you and I can give when somebody else is living out their story, and it's a story of tragedy and they're living through the pain, the best gift we can give and the best gift we can offer others is a gift of just presence, just being there, having compassion, experiencing sorrow with them, and a willingness to wait with them, waiting on God to reveal the deliverance, the gold, the value that He's digging out of their lives. As a pastor, there's many times that I have no answer. And so I just stand there beside people, just so they know they're not alone. And sometimes that's the only answer we can give when somebody is going through a chapter of tragedy. I encourage you today, be real about the tragedy and the story of shalom shattered in your life.